Hey-yo, lords and lads, ladies, goofballs of all shapes and sizes. I have a question. If it actually came down to a U.S. versus UN boogaloo, well, let me think here. Would we be the original gangsters? Or would we be kind of screwed, seeing as how we've allowed pretty much all of our weapons to be confiscated by tyrannical oppressors? I say all of our weapons, but yeah, that's a fucking bullshit lie. There's people like me who fucking could make a bomb out of Bizquick, but you know, the question remains, what chance would we have? Now, I'm coming to you out of my own little makeshift working on it myself trailer. Been working on this particular machine for a while. As you can quite tell, it's definitely a piece of shit. I inherited this piece of shit from my dad. He never really took care of it. It was a piece of shit when I got it. And then I had some rats chew the fucking place all to hell. So yeah, it's a real fixer-upper. I'm working on it right now, but that's why it's kind of a mess, and you know, it doesn't look all that great. I mean, yeah, you can see I've picked up some of my shit and put it where it needs to be, you know, fishing poles where they need to be, fishing gear where it needs to be, you know, my bug out tent thing where it needs to be, and you know, taking care of everything around here. As you can see, I mean, yeah, if we had a fire out here once, my dad had the AC running and it blew smoke all up inside of here and destroyed this thing, so that's all that too. These are the living conditions which I live in. Basically a shit pile. Now, this is why most of the time I'm not sitting here on a YouTube's uploading videos, alright? It takes a little bit of work to actually do one of these videos. Little bit, because most of the time I just ramble on and I can do quite a few things with a one take kind of a setup. But, you know, it comes down to the idea of, well, in a situation of, say, ye old boogaloo, what kind of a chance would we have? Well, there's a lot of U.S. Marines that got a saying for this, and I'm about to show you what I mean. This is my rifle. There are many like it, but this one is mine. My rifle is nothing without me. I am nothing without my rifle. Should the enemy choose to look down that barrel, they will find a man who is trained by Marines on the other end of that gun. They will not understand, but they will know that they have made a mistake. For this is my rifle. And though there are many like it, this one is mine. Yeah, it's just an air gun. A lot of you would say, hey, man, that's just a single shot BB gun. What could that do? Well, something you don't know about that single shot BB gun. If I can get it into the daggum holder again. Part of me working on my trailer. Building myself a freaking gun rack to where I can hide it. Now, Um, why would I say that, it's not just a BB gun? It's not just a pellet gun. Well, that would be because that particular gun that I just put away is the 50 caliber Sam Yang. Now, you might say, oh yeah, big whoop. It's a 50 caliber air rifle. It's a deer gun. So what? Well, here's the thing about anything that is 12.7 millimeter or larger. It is considered a military size round capable of anti-aircraft fire because of its diameter. Okay, this is why the Russians have their 12.7, or I mean their 12.5, sorry, cord, and the American military has the M2 Browning 50 caliber and the Barrett 50, which are both capable of firing incendiary and armor-piercing incendiary and tracer armor-piercing incendiary and exploding internals incendiary rounds. Oh, and heat rounds too, by the way. Yes, 50 cals can actually shoot with enough power to put a round into tank armor far enough that when it explodes, it can cause the same jet of, metal to shoot through the tank armor. Am I saying that this would be a viable option? Yes and no. An RPG-7 needs to have a certain amount of explosives in it to punch through that tank armor. So something about, let's walk back over here. Don't want you to see that part because you can't. I can't let you. That would be both illegal and stupid. So you're going to have to look at my ugly mug for a sec. Deal. Alright, so now I have pulled out some particular ammunition and we're going to go over it. Okay? Yes, this is the same ammunition that you might have seen in a previous video of mine talking about, this is a 50 caliber air gun. And yes, it is a highly lethal weapon. It is a very dangerous weapon. It can be utilized in a military application, as air guns were covered under the Second Amendment. Maybe you didn't know this, but the Hungarian and Prussian armies both had regiments for air gunners back in the 1700s and 1600s. So our founding fathers did know about air guns. What is this? Well, that looks like the trophy taker I was showing you the other day, right? Except for one little tiny difference there. What is that? Well, that looks like a lead pellet smashed into the front end of that thing. Why would you have something like that in there, right? Well, 17 caliber lead plug. Well, that would be because, well, I don't have any in here right now. These rounds can be utilized as HEP rounds, high explosive projectile rounds, which means that you can pack this thing full of like iodine or whatever, iodine potassium sulfide or something of the similar, something that's touch sensitive, and then you plug it with this little lead pellet. Now you don't want to push it in too far because, kaboom, right in your hands. But there you go, you want to push it in till it seats in the front end. Then place it in your sabot, place it in your firearm, and fire it. Now, here's the thing. This same concept was utilized by the United States militia in the Revolutionary War. You may not realize it, but it was. Artillery rounds back in those days were mostly 9-pound or greater. But some musketoon, and blunderbuss were capable of firing high explosive ball shot. Now, the way that this ball shot was made was very incredible in how they made it. What they would do is they would take and hollow out the inside of the ball shot, you know, so that it had a cavity in it, like so. Okay, this isn't a ball shot. This would be more like your mini ball or what have you, but it's actually a slug, 495 Express slug, which is what my 50 caliber shoots. It has a cavity within the inside of it. Okay, a large cavity, might I add, that is capable of holding up to about 3 to 5 ounces of high explosive compounds, which are touch sensitive. Now, why would you want something that's touch sensitive if you're going to be accelerating that down the barrel of a firearm very, very quickly? Well, here's the thing. You want it to be able to, when it impacts, to detonate. Now, of course, binary explosives like tannerite are very useful for this. But let's say you don't have access to tannerite, which is kind of retarded because anybody who's got, you know, a half a fucking day in chemistry could make a box of tannerite properly. But let's say you don't have tannerite. All you got is like a bunch of cup caps from your kid's little 38 special look-alike thingy that, you know, the bottom, or the cup caps from back when you were a kid or something, and you still got them sitting in, you know, your toolbox or so, your toy bin or whatever from when you were a kid, and they're sitting in your attic or something. That is potassium iodide. And I believe it's potassium iodide sulfonamide, which has the potential to be touch sensitive when a chlorine atom is attached to it. So, and those are touch sensitive, by the way. The little cup caps and the little paper caps and whatnot that you used to get as a kid, that is that touch sensitive compound, the potassium or iodine sulfonamide chlorate, which you could just snap it between your fingers and it'll go off. So it's not a joke. It's a real kaboom. So that's where all that purple, whitish smoke comes from. Okay, so now that we've been over that one, well, you could pack that into, say, one of these rounds, and it would actually be legal for use as an anti-materiel round. According to the what did they call that? The wasn't Nuremberg. It was post-World War II military surplus and military rounds. Now, I doubt that it will come down to a serious fucking boogaloo situation here in the United States with the UN, because seriously, if the UN ever came stomping their happy asses here looking for a fight with American citizens, well, I'm sorry to say this, but yeah, them boys that you hear overhead right now, they would be none too pleased about that shit. It would be pretty much a free-for-all for them boys. They'd love the action. You don't understand. You know, action on American soil to American soldiers is like, or, you know, American sailors, American airmen, American GIs, what have you, is like handing a freaking M80 to a kid and going, now don't blow your fingers off. If you were my generation, you know exactly what that means. We's having some fun. So anyways, you know, the whole thing about, you know, would the UN stand a chance here in America? It's a really dear question to my heart. It's very important because as a young man, I was taught to fire a firearm by my dad and by his best friend in the world at the time. All right? This man was a United States Marine for many years. Still is, mind you, because you're never really not a Marine. Once a Marine, always a Marine. This man is a former Marine, served honorably, and did several things in my childhood to make it so that my dad, as the head of the household, as the man of the house, was capable of defending his children, defending his family, defending his animals, his property, what have you, effectively, and still being able to follow the law, and still being able to do things that were righteous, and still being able to teach his kids, how to utilize a firearm appropriately, how to hunt, how to track, how to prep for things that could be coming at you, how to do things so that, you don't need the hospitals, you don't need the pharmaceutical companies, you can do this all on your own. This was a big thing for my dad. And for me, it was phenomenally huge, because what you don't understand, or what you may fail to understand, is that when I was this age, I was so heavily cocktailed on medications that zombie would have been wakeful by comparison to me. I was a walking shell. And the fact that my dad still took the time, and my Uncle Scott still took the time to get up off their asses and say, hey, fuck it, let's go shooting. My kid's got his fucking pellet guns, and he's always out there in the backyard plinking at bottles and cans and shit, and fucking all that shit up, and shooting squirrels and shooting freaking Tweety birds, and fuck it, let's get all the guns, throw them in the back of the truck, and let's go. This was my dad at the time. To me, this is one of those, whoa. Now, there's an attitude I ain't seen in a fucking long time. One of those, I know he hates my dog. Is he going to be, I don't want to leave my dog because my dog goes with me everywhere, but are we going out to shoot Toby? This is literally what went through my mind at the time. And I gotta say, I'm very proud of my dad. This was not on his mind. He was, and understand, I was under the influence of fucking Ritalin at the time. There is no possible way on this planet that I would ever consider this in full reality, because my dad, while having a temper, he wasn't one to physically take out his aggression on a living creature. He'd go and beat holes in walls. He'd punch the ceiling. He'd go nuts on a freaking chair. But this man would never lay a finger on anybody around or any animal around. Sure, we all have our rage issues, but the question is, since he never actually physically got violent with anybody in our family, and the one time he disciplined me was because I made a royal fuck up. Kids, don't punch your dad in the balls. It's not fucking cool. Take it from me, take it from my experience, not cool. Anyways, so back to the story at hand. We all go down to this gun range, and just the three of us, really, because my sisters weren't old enough to hold a gun, and my mom was freaking out, like, what the hell are you taking the guns out? Excuse me for a second, but not all Republicans are actually gun-toting Americans, okay? Just because you think that my mom is a Republican, and she is, pretty much. She's on the Republican wagon of things. She fucking hates guns with a passion. She doesn't mind that I have them. She doesn't mind that other people have them. In fact, she extols that other people have them. But she fucking hates the object. Because my uncle, when he was a kid, shot my grandma in the face somewheres with a plunger dart gun. And when my mom was a little girl. Little girl. Okay? So, obviously she was traumatized by it and never really could get over her phobia of projectile weapons. Even shooting a bow, she had trouble with it. And she still doesn't take her bow out, even though she is an Olympic archer. My mom actually was going to try out for the Olympics at one point in time. She was that good. Phenomenal with a bow. This woman could freaking hit a bee on the wing. Which is saying something, because my dad could, with his bow, couldn't hit a freaking pie plate. And he was a freaking bow hunter too, so you got to think about that. Hence the reason I'm an air gun hunter. I like air guns. I like real guns, rifles, shotguns, pistols. Do not like bows very much. It also hurts a lot for me to shoot a bow. I used to shoot bows when I was a kid. I was an avid archer when I was little, because it was something that I could shoot that was about that same potential and power that gave me the ability to be physically armed and capable, while, and legally physically armed and capable, while at the same time, I wasn't actually having a firearm in my possession, so my dad and my mom couldn't get arrested for, a kid illegally possessing a firearm, which Utah was that way back then. Still is, pretty much. But, yeah. Fucking retarded, in my opinion. If a kid knows how to use a firearm and somebody breaks into their house and they hurt their mom and their dad, and their mom and dad can't get up and utilize that fucking gun, you better believe you're... Ooh, it makes me mad. Yeah, a kid should be able to utilize a firearm in a defensive situation. Doesn't matter if they're 17 years old. Doesn't matter if the freaking gun is unloaded or what have you. They should be legally allowed, should be whatever. Shall not be infringed. Plain simple. It doesn't deviate. Doesn't say, when it doesn't hurt your feelings. Doesn't say, that the government may take away whenever they feel like it. It says, shall not be infringed, which means anytime that a government official or a police officer or an American citizen tells you that you may not have a firearm or any weapon in particular about your person, they can go and stuff it. Plain and simple. They don't like that you have any kind of weapon about you, too fucking bad. It's your right as an American. If you don't like it, there's the door. The fuck on out of here. Because I ain't putting up with it. I like guns. I like seeing other people with guns. Matter of fact, it does my heart a world of good, because I know I am safe when I see somebody walking around with a gun, especially if they don't have a badge on their chest. That actually makes me feel a lot more safe when they don't have the badge sitting there. They could be all kitted out like a cop. No badge? Fucking great. I feel really safe around these people. You know why? Because in all reality, they're going to be the ones that get targeted first. That opens up a firearm for me. I now can utilize that firearm to take out the person who was targeting that other person. Logic. It's amazing. Also, my air guns, let me put it this way. My 50 caliber is more powerful than my dad's 22 long rifle pistol was. By a large margin of error. My dad's 22 long rifle pistol was capable of 190 foot-pounds of energy relayed to any target at any point in time beyond 12 yards from the muzzle. 12 yards. After those 12 yards, it was 190 foot-pounds or less. Before that, it would have been about like 200, 250. But that's just at the muzzle to 12 yards. Now, with my air rifle, my big bore Samyang, that thing is capable of launching that big freaking projectile at about 850 feet per second, give or take, 25 feet per second. That roughly comes out to about 485 foot-pounds of energy, about 500 joules. It's a freaking heavy-duty, powerful air gun. As a matter of fact, it's illegal in many countries because it's that powerful. Here in the United States, we're allowed to have it because, specifically, the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. It is a right of the people. We American citizens enjoy something that not a lot of people really get to hold as, really close to them. The less than third world countries don't necessarily get a right to keep and bear arms. As a matter of fact, they really don't have the right to keep and bear arms. And even some second world and first world countries, China, France. France is actually a first world country. I don't know if you guys know this, but France is a first world country. Their main export is socialism, but they're a first world country by the UN ratings. I'm bringing it back around to the UN. Just hold hard. Hold fast. If you know where that reference comes from, let me know in the comments below. Anyways, yeah, it's a situation of my 50 caliber is more powerful than the smaller firearm, which I'm not allowed to have. The more you know. Hell, this right here is as powerful as that 22 long rifle. And it will penetrate armor. So the question remains, who stands a better chance? American militia or UN peacekeepers? American militia sounds about right. See, we're not some pansy-ass little wannabe force. We follow the laws because we have to. We train because we can. Physically. Not because there's a law about it or whatnot. Alright? We train because we can, and we know we must. Because otherwise, freedom, liberty, life, pursuit of happiness, all of that goes out the window. There's no oh, well, we'll survive. It doesn't work like that. You either stand up and you fight, and you make them not want for a fight, or you end up like this. BTFD. And dying. Slowly. That's the reality of this. All of this damage to my body, this is nerve damage to my brain. I am going to die at a very young age. Probably my 60s-ish. Now that wouldn't be a young age for most people, but for our generation, for the millennial generation, that's an incredibly young age to be passing on. That's probably where I'm going to end up, is going on, is about 60, 70-ish. Because brain damage, damage to my organs, damage due to concussion, damage due to toxins, damage due to what have you, to my body, to the way it works and all that. My body cannot regenerate fast enough to take on the amount of damage that I take on as, just Blaine, let alone as a U.S. Minuteman, on a daily basis. My body is failing. I mean, I'm 30 years old. I'm 32, really, but I walk out of my trailer here, and the 2 steps down feels like walking to hell. My knees go, get all crunchy and feel like I'm, my knees have bags of sand in them. And my ankle feels like every second it wants to just twist. And it's not like, it is just insane to think that I personally stand a chance in a true out and out firefight when it comes down to, soldiers. Trained, well equipped, and combative ready. Soldiers. I don't fucking face. No. Not a second. I wouldn't last the minute. That's the thing. I would not last my life expectancy in a firefight because my body is damaged. That doesn't mean that I'm gonna back down because I'm hurt. I got boo boos. I got boo boos. No, fuck that shit. Boo boos? What? Huh? Owies? What? What's that? Nah. You got plenty of time to hurt when you're freaking rolling over and puking up your guts for the last time.